A big weekend in the portal for Nebraska sets up another big week in the portal for Nebraska.
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, thanks for joining us, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel, where the college football playoff continues to roll and is winding down. FanDuel is the best place to get in on all the action, all playoff long. Visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boosts every game day.
All right, welcome in. It is Monday morning. A new week in the portal news continues. I'm Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Connor Happer of 1620 The Zone is with me. A new defensive line coach, perhaps, for Nebraska. We'll discuss that. A basketball takedown at Assembly Hall on Saturday that made national news. Fred Hoiberg's team continues to be on a historic run. But the portal is on center stage. Headlines from this weekend. I hope I've got it all here. In for Nebraska from the portal, wide receiver Quasi Gilmer from UCLA. This goes all the way back to Friday after you heard our most recent show. Cornerback Victor Evans, corner with an N. He's a defensive back from FIU. Safety Jason Shiggs from FCS level Towson, in Maryland. Long snapper Jack Willis from Michigan State, a needed position. And then on Sunday night, Daniel Kalin, the quarterback. We know him well, formerly of Nebraska, transferring back from Virginia. Also in the news this weekend in portal activity, Willis McGahee IV is back at Nebraska, out of the portal. And so is Dylan Parrott, the defensive lineman. So there's a defensive lineman for Nebraska. That is 13 players to date who have come in via the portal to Nebraska, not including those who left and came back. 13 new players to the program. Also in, as of Sunday, defensive lineman Andy Berberija.
We figured this out because with my Iowa Western people, Berberia from Chicago. And the last couple of years at Iowa Western, JUCO All-American. He does not use the portal to travel from Iowa Western to Lincoln. Just the old standard transfer, JUCO transfer. But he'll be there Monday, today, because that's when school begins for the second semester. And a couple of high school prospects in the 2026 class have appeared on Nebraska's radar. So, whoa, what a weekend, Connor. Yeah, figured it'd be busy, and it certainly was. I saw the video that they put out on Sunday night where everybody's back at the team meeting, and there's some plenty of new faces, right? So we're still getting familiarized with all of them. We'll like catch our breath on this, after it all cinches up at the end of next week. But yeah, it's certainly a productive weekend for Nebraska, especially on the defensive side. And now I think you can, we'll talk about this, but you could sort of like turn your attention to the glaring position of need now that you assumingly have a defensive line coach, and you can really get the ball rolling in that direction this week.
Yeah, not announced. By the way, saw Tony Calandria in that video that Nebraska put out. That was nice, meeting his new teammates, presumed QB1. So yeah, not official yet, but it has been reported by multiple outlets that Nebraska has found a defensive line coach. Corey Brown would be coming to Nebraska from Miami of Ohio, where he spent the past 3 years. Before that, 2 years at South Dakota, and that's where the connection comes in with Bob Orich, Nebraska's defensive coordinator. They were together at South Dakota. Brown had a previous stint at Miami. He was also the D-line coach in a very bad period of years at Rutgers. But Big Ten experience comes with it. And at Iowa Western Community College way back in the early Strohmeyer days. So some experience there
And the big thing is that Nebraska appears to be close to having this done. When it gets to this point and you hear things like it's tracking to happen, it's set to happen, you're just talking about contractual things, and I would expect that Brown will be there in delivering in Lincoln this week. It's a dead period, by the way, for the next 3 days: today, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So they're going to take a breather from having visitors on campus. Then you can rev it back up for the weekend when the portal closes.
And they need it too. I mean, did you see I really love the talking about other videos, the video that they put out of Owen Chambliss and
good stuff.
And McDougal's visit
on their visit,
where they take them straight off the plane and straight to the 50-yard line, and they roll it from there, and it's pretty cool. I mean, you go by the stadium at any point over the last couple of days, it's been painted in red and it's loud in there. Like they got it all set up for the visitors, and they've been quite busy over the last few days here.
Yeah, go check that out. If you missed it, it's on the Huskers social feeds, and you see a lot of Kristen Coggin in that official visit video behind the scenes. It's an 8 or 9 minute video, so pretty in depth, and a lot of Dennis LeBlanc and talk about Nebraska's academic success. You see quite a bit of emphasis on food, but not just, hey, you get to eat nice food, but we want to know what kind of food you like. What are your preferences? You'll see the weight room in there. You'll see, I don't know if it was McDougal. I think it was McDougal in the cold tub getting ribbed by the head coach because it was a short stay in the cold. It's too cold. Got to get out of there, man. He's got that California blood in him, so not ready for the cold in Lincoln. But those guys will all be settled at Nebraska early this week, presumably today, Monday, as classes get going. And I think the question is, so this defensive line situation is coming into focus with Corey Brown, and now you have Berberja. Is that right?
Berberia.
Oh, that's gonna give me problems.
We'll get
Berberia
there.
Sounds like some kind of a coat. I'd wear that to go duck hunting or something like that. I need a Berberia coat. It's like a retailer at the outlet mall. They make the warmest coats in the upper Midwest.
There's definitely some potential puns there for announcers of Nebraska games going forward. So that's exciting.
Yeah. So how much more does Nebraska need to do on the defensive line? Because I think we look at the way that it went at the end of the season with them giving up yards by the hundreds in the run game and think that like they had to totally remake that room. And I don't know, when I look through it, I think there's some pieces there. There's a lot of pieces there, especially switching to a 4-man front and having a new edges coach and now a new tackles/line coach and a JUCO All-American there. Like I would like to see Nebraska get another interior lineman, and then I think they might be okay.
Yeah, I think you're probably thinking about two. If you feel good about that sort of thing, like you could get 2 guys on campus, 3 guys on campus or something like that. I mean, they'll take all the help they can get, but at this point it's about getting the new coach in and seeing who he has relationships with and seeing what pieces you could sort of put together from there. But I'm with you. It's not, we probably, emphasized it more simply because of the way last season ended, obviously. And don't get me wrong, they absolutely need pieces there. But it was one of the things just like, oh, they need 10 new defensive linemen. Like, that's not, that's not how it's going to work here. They get a couple guys to sort of fortify it, some age and experience in there. And there's got to be some guys out there who certainly meet that criteria.
There are good young players in the program at that position. I think that's we can say that with certainty. And then a player we haven't talked about, we did mention that Nebraska's after some 2026 incoming freshmen. Dylan Berryman is, by some accounts, the top unsigned player in the 2026 class. At one time, seemed to be trending toward Texas or Ole Miss or LSU. He's from Monroe, Louisiana, 4-star prospect, 6'2", 330 pounds, visited Nebraska over the weekend. and he's going to look at Kentucky this week. It always comes down to Nebraska and Kentucky for these players for whatever reason. They go head to head more than random Big Ten SEC programs should, but Berryman would be a February signee, so not an early enrollee, but that would be a big piece, especially if he's coming in good shape at 330 pounds. So he reportedly had a good visit to Nebraska over the weekend, so some pieces falling into place at the defensive line spot. Let's get this out of the way. Let's do this before we take a break. Danny Kalin is coming back, the former Bellevue West quarterback, 2024 at Nebraska. He was the longtime commit in that 24 class, the only commit at the quarterback position. And then Dylan Rhule flipped from Georgia right before signing day. Kalin chose to stay despite having some options to leave. Spent 1 year at Nebraska. Of course, Rhule won the job as a true freshman. And then Kalin transferred to Virginia, where he was a backup last year, 2025, to Chandler Morris, who was attempting to get another year and got denied that year. So Kalin, while visiting Nebraska on Friday, had the option to look back at his school that he entered the portal from, Virginia, and could have gone back there potentially to compete for the number one job. He was also looking at Iowa State late last week, but then the Clones got a commit from Danny's old rival at Gretna, Zane Flores, the Oklahoma State transfer. So that took away the option of going to Iowa State, and Kalin made the announcement official that he is in for Nebraska on Sunday night.
Yeah, you mentioned this on a previous podcast. You know, it feels like the perfect way to sort of close out the room and set yourself up where you have your, well, I mean, not that they can't still add some younger pieces, more developmental pieces, I think at this point, but you know, you have our guy Tony at the top there, and TJ Lateef is still in the house, and Daniel Kaelin comes back and you know, just really we got TJ Lateef. You got, you know, three guys that you could potentially put in a game and trust. That's a great situation given, you know, how we've sort of felt like it was going to be, and it was going to be difficult to sort of thread that needle with, you know, how do you find a guy who is young and won't want to come in and necessarily have to be the starter right away and all that stuff. So Kaelin knows the deal, and he signed up for it. So I think it's a great situation for Nebraska.
It is, and he knows the program, and he can be, I think, a resource for Calandria. I don't know if they know each other at all from crossing paths at Virginia. Kalin was going into Virginia as Calandria was leaving Virginia to go to UNLV a year ago at this time. I would imagine that they didn't spend much time, if any, together, but they can get acquainted now, and I think Danny can be beneficial to Calandria and just helping him learn the culture and learn the lay of the land, as can TJ Lateef. And then we'll just mention here that Nebraska did host a 2026 QB on campus over the weekend. Tanner Vibabule. Gosh, can we make these names a little more pronounceable, please? He is from Las Vegas, so we'll see what happens with that if there's more of that story to tell. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. Big announcement from Connor about his day job, and we get to Nebraska basketball. All that next.
But first, a word from the FanDuel Sportsbook. The college football playoff is down to its final game. FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get on the action. Every game day of the playoff, there's just one left. Right now, FanDuel users can get a profit boost waiting for them in the app on National Championship game day. So you could use those profit boosts on bets that you might already feel good about, whether you are taking the favorite in Indiana or you are going somewhere else with it. Miami in their own backyard. You know, you could use a profit boost on whatever you might like, whether it's player props and anything in between. Then you apply those profit boosts and go after even bigger winnings, still with more amounts of money in your pocket to deal with. So that is a great deal. FanDuel pays out instantly, which is great, of course, for playoff football. We remind you, of course, the NFL is still happening as well. FanDuel, the best place to get on the action all college football playoff long. So head to FanDuel.com/lockedon to get your college football playoff profit boosts every game day. All right. Thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen of the day. And thanks for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Welcome back. So, yeah, I guess you probably have a couple more options for your first listen of the day now. People are probably wondering what the heck is going on with me. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. Maybe you only know me from here. But I also do a show on 1620 The Zone, formerly from 10 to 2, now from 6 to 10 in the morning. We'll be collabing with former guest of the show.
I'm tired just hearing
maybe future guest of the show, Mike Schaefer.
Yes.
Which is going to be fantastic. I am very much looking forward to it. The wake up time is going to be an adjustment, but I get to eat lunch again, which I am excited about because I love lunch.
That is exciting.
I love lunch.
We'll have to do lunch. That is exciting, and you guys are reprising. You're reigniting your old show from the ticket in Lincoln. So is it just you're gonna pick up where you left off, or do you and Schaaf have all kinds of new tricks up your sleeve?
Oh yeah, there's Mike Schaefer's the idea man, so he's already brought a million things to the table as far as getting this thing off the ground. So we're gonna roll with that. It'll be the same. It'll be the same show. It'll be the same show that you've used to been listening to with me, and here, because I say the same stuff everywhere. So excited to add Schaefer into the fold, and it's going to be a fun one for sure.
All right, well, go get up early, everybody, and listen to this show. The beauty of this show is you can get it whenever you want. But if you're actually tuning in on a radio dial, you can get Connor and Mike Schaefer from 6 to 10 on 1620 in the Omaha area, or on 1620thezone.com. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And you can just move my segment. You move my segment. I'm gonna need a spot in the show somewhere, weekly. So we went on Wednesdays before. We'll just talk later about wherever you want to put me. So
you're getting in there. Don't worry. Yeah, we'll talk about it.
All right. We'll talk about Nebraska basketball when I come on for the first time, and for the first 2 months, maybe 3 months, who knows? Nebraska basketball might be playing into April again this year in a different tournament than what we saw a year ago. Huskers are 16-0 after defeating Indiana 83-77 on Saturday morning into the early afternoon at Assembly Hall, right on the heels of the Hoosiers punching their ticket in football to the national championship game. So with 17 minutes and 30 seconds to go in that game, Nebraska was down 49-33, then exploded for 50 points the rest of the way, turned that 16-point deficit into a 9-point lead, and then cruised on out to a 6-point victory. So when the AP rankings come out today on Monday around noon, I don't know. The only team ahead of Nebraska in the poll to lose last week, I believe, was Michigan, number 2 or number 2.
I think they were 2 at the time.
Arizona's 1. Michigan lost at home against Wisconsin. I don't envision Michigan falling below Nebraska in the AP poll. I don't know if there's room for Nebraska to go up, but with wins on the road at Ohio State and Indiana since the last poll came out, you may see Nebraska just jumping teams that didn't lose, like BYU and Houston and some others. So really interested to see if Nebraska can attain the highest ranking in school history, which is number 8 in the AP poll, way back 59 years ago, 60 years ago.
I'll tell you what, maybe you can't make the math work in your head, like as far as who they would move, over as far as the polls are concerned. But I'll tell you this. The word is out. The word is out about Nebraska basketball. People know about Nebraska basketball at this point, and every time they play, it's a test every single time. So last week was so important to get those 2 road wins, and new people are watching them every time, and it's like these guys don't freaking blink. They don't blink. They pass every single test literally. I mean, they're still undefeated on the season, but it keeps getting more and more impressive in the way that they win as well. And so, they're going to start getting that respect nationally if it hasn't happened already.
There have been good Nebraska teams, like tournament caliber Nebraska teams, that have struggled to get 1 or 2 road wins in conference in an entire year. And this Nebraska team goes out on the heels of beating Michigan State in an emotional win and does it twice in difficult Big Ten environments in a 6-day stretch. So they are something else. They're what can't this team do, I think, is now one of the questions. You see the leadership coming from everywhere. I mean, it's not necessarily that Rink Mast had a spectacular game on Saturday in Bloomington. He did not. It wasn't that somebody knew every game.
It was Lawrence.
It was Jamarcus Lawrence with 27 points against the Hoosiers, and then Braden Frager, who was quiet for most of the game, exploded in the final 6 minutes, and he's something else. So this whole thing is just, it's becoming the story in college basketball nationally here in the middle of January. Now, will it be in March? Tough to say, but it's becoming that right now, like just something that everybody around the country is talking about. They're 5-0 in quad one games, up to 11th on Sunday in the NET rankings.
Yeah, it's got to be. I mean, the only way to view them at this point is that they are 100% real Big Ten title contenders. And they are, they're in that mix. If you're in that mix of like a top, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 16, basically team in the country at this point in the season, you're going to be sticking there. Like when they do the top 16 seed reveal, like historically, those teams don't change much. They don't move out of that because they've already built such a great resume. So
you're digging in. They've dug it out, this spot, and it's going to be very difficult to knock them off that perch. I mean, they're going to lose games most likely, but even that is they're going to remain in a favorable seed position going into the tournament.
Yeah, and think about it. Like the only way that you really lose in the metrics, because the quality of the conference is so good. We'll talk about these next 4 in a second, which are against some lower level Big Ten teams with a chance to go start 20-0 going into a game at Michigan, which is just incredible. But the only way you really lose in the metrics is when you lose at home, and Pinnacle Bank Arena is going to be absolutely out of control for the foreseeable future. So
games are selling out.
Yeah, that would be hard to envision at this point. You could have a bad night, whatever, but so they're going to be right in that mix the entire rest of the season. That's the way it is now.
So this week it's Tuesday night against Oregon. Dana Altman, down year for the Ducks. They're 8-8 right now. So they come in on Tuesday, and then Nebraska's at Northwestern on Saturday. I'm asking that like a question because I don't have the schedule right in front of me, but I believe that's the case. And then Huskers go to, I believe, Minnesota, and there is one more game in there before
it's Washington. So it's Oregon, Northwestern, Washington, Minnesota, 2 home, 2 away.
So the home games are during the week. They have Washington. Is it next Tuesday? Next Wednesday, and then back on the road for the Gophers. And that's the toughest of the 4 games. Minnesota is a tough place to play, and that'll be on paper that one looks like the most difficult of the next 4. But that's what stands between Nebraska and a 20-0 start and a January 27th game at Michigan, where you're looking at one of the best teams in the country. Even after that loss on Saturday, Michigan would be a team that most people would put in the Final Four today.
And, look at the other Big Ten title contenders, right? So Michigan's obviously one of them. You get them on the road. We're setting up for that huge game coming up in a couple of weeks. But you get a return trip from Illinois at home, and then the other Big Ten title contender is Purdue, and you get them at home in the second week of February. So it's not just like smooth sailing from there on out, but the really, really challenging games against the big dogs of the conference. 2 out of the 3 of them are going to be at home. So they got to
buckle in. This basketball stuff's not going away. It's not a flash in the pan. Nebraska basketball is here to stay for the winter and spring of 2026. I will say I made some hotel reservations just on contingency. They're cancelable, but I'm looking at potentially Nebraska being in Oklahoma City or in St. Louis in that 3rd weekend of March. And if they're there, I'm making every pitch to my bosses to go there and document what could be a pretty historic. You talk about history in Nebraska doing things like Saturday. Real history is winning a game in the NCAA tournament or multiple games in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and they're going to be set up for it at this point with their seeds. So you can't count down the days to get there at this point, but that is the thing that's left on the to-do list. Win a couple.
If it's in San Diego, I'm going to that too. There's I don't care. I'll go on my own dime. I got a place to stay out there. You've seen it. People have seen it who've watched this podcast before. So
that's right.
I'll take that in March as well. All right. Actually, I will not pay. No, I will not pay my own way there. So if any of my bosses listening to this, sorry, that possibility is out. Let's take a break before this goes off the rails. We'll come back. We'll talk about everything else that we didn't get to for Nebraska football in the transfer portal over this busy weekend. That's next. All right, the new year is here, and it's the perfect time to reset your routine and refresh your space. That's why we're talking about Wayfair. If you are spending more time at home, you might as well love how it looks and how it feels. That's why you should turn to Wayfair. It's a one-stop shop for getting your home back on track. I know we've been doing that over the past few weeks in my house since all of the decorations came down. It's been about organizing and making things feel fresh for the year 2026. So if you're looking for bedding, mattresses, storage solutions for every room, Wayfair makes it easy to start the year fresh. They've got everything you need for a full home refresh all in one place. Whether you're updating, organizing, or upgrading, Wayfair's huge selection makes it easy to find exactly what works for your style and budget. Shopping is easy, delivery is smooth, and everything arrives exactly as expected. It honestly makes getting back into the new routine in the new year feel more manageable. So get organized, get refreshed, get back on track in 2026 for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. All right, back with you on this Monday Locked On Nebraska podcast. Mitch Sherman, Connor Happer finishing up the show today. Some sad news from Sunday. A legend in the state of Nebraska, in the sporting world, and just in the state of Nebraska, period. Not a whole lot of Olympic gold medalists to come out of this state, but one who did, Jim Hartung, passed away at the age of 65 on Saturday night watching his beloved Green Bay Packers. He suffered a heart attack. Hartung had experienced some medical issues. He continued to coach. He was an assistant coach for the Nebraska men's gymnastics team, which he competed for and won 4 team national championships under Francis Allen in the early 1980s. He was from Omaha South High School. If you go to that high school and you check out their Hall of Fame, you'll see Dave Remington prominently displayed, a tribute to him, and you'll see Jim Hartung. He is truly one of the greatest athletes ever to come from the University of Nebraska and from the city of Omaha. So our thoughts here are with his friends and family.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, that's the name that sticks out really amongst the rest in not only Nebraska gymnastics, but some of our state's best athletes of all time. So was around some Nebraska folks doing some PA work for the women's basketball team on Sunday night, and just talking to people about it and how sort of shocked everybody was and surprised and saddened by the whole thing. So definitely hearts go out to his family for sure.
Let's talk about some of these portal developments that occurred over the weekend that we touched on early in the show. So the return of Willis McGahee IV. This is an interesting one. And honestly, not one, Connor, that I expected when he went in about a week ago. I thought that the situation with McGahee, where he did not earn playing time early this season and then ended up in a redshirt season, was was foreshadowing for him having a split from the program. So not all that shocking to see him go into the portal. He's back, and I am curious with the shifting of the defense at Nebraska to a traditional 4-man front. McGahee was playing the jack linebacker position, which was like a hybrid between the first and second levels in that 3-man front system. Is he going to bulk up and be an edge rusher for Roy Manning in this system, or do you look at him more as a traditional linebacker back there with Vincent Shavers and Owen Chambliss and the top players at that group? I'm interested to hear from Rob Orich, when we get to have some time with him about what happened with Willis McGahee here in early January and where he sees him fitting, where Orich sees McGahee fitting in this system.
Yeah, it's one of the positive parts about changing over your defensive coordinator and changing the face of your defense a little bit. Like you get to re-recruit your players a little bit and say, here's the new plan for you, and sort of everybody gets a fresh start, and you start at zero that way. So definitely what Willis McGahee needed, I think, just how last year went. So the talent, like you said, Mitch, is completely there. So I can't wait to see what the plan is for him. That's for sure.
And then the addition of Quasi Gilmer. This is a big signing for Nebraska. I think it goes a little bit under the radar because Nebraska has had no problems since the portal came into existence in bringing in wide receivers. Seemingly every year there's somebody. It was Dane Key. He was the name last year, and Isaiah Hunter was probably more the bigger talent. But we've seen it with Jamal Banks and Isaiah Nair and Samari Toure and others through the years. The LSU receiver who did Trey Palmer did big things for Nebraska. So Gilmer is regardless, he's a big time addition for Nebraska with the production that he put up at UCLA. 6'2", 190 pounds, caught 650 yards worth of passes last season, 10.7 yard average. So, and Nebraska hasn't had receivers go into the portal. So he is obviously gone as a senior, but it's a position group. I expected Nebraska to lose some people, to be honest. And there's still some time, but that's going to be something to watch this week is what happens at wide receiver. Does anything happen at wide receiver? And if not, then you put Gilmer in with the returnees, and you could see why some quarterbacks would be interested in wanting to come to this place, because there's a lot of pass catchers who have some high ceilings.
Well, I just feel like it'll be really good for them for the first time. Like you have some stability maybe in that room if you can make it to the end of next week and not have big pieces leave. But you mentioned Key's gone, but Hunter's back and Barney's back at this point, and so I think
Mills.
Great for him to go into that room and have some established people around him a little bit. Like that's a situation where you could get the most out of a player who's coming into the transfer portal, not necessarily where it's like, hey, go be our number one guy and teach everybody else how to do. Like Nebraska's been in that game for a long time now. So and Isaiah Hunter figures to be the top guy in that room. And, Gilmer is a different type of player. And so I'm fascinated to see what he can do.
They can be 1 and 1A, and then Barney's a different kind of talent. That can be 1B or just one, whatever. Like all three of those players have top end wide receiver kind of ability, and the young crew is also in a position now. And I'm talking about Cortez Mills and Quinn Clark and Kaelin Smith, where they should be showing their the experience that they've gained in the program. And you have a position coach in DeKeel Shorts who's back for a second year. So all kinds of consistency there that Nebraska just has not enjoyed at that position group for quite some time.
Yeah. And then you've done a lot to the defensive backs room with Victor Evans and Jason Shiggs coming in from some lower levels. Nebraska hasn't been afraid to go out and get those type of guys, and they've had some pretty decent success with it as well. So still adding bodies back there.
Yeah, 3 of the 11 portal ads. Sorry, it's not 11 now. When I typed that out, it was, I believe it's 13, 14 if you count the big JUCO defensive lineman. 3 of the 14 new players as of this month are DBs, and I don't know that I would have predicted that. And I probably would have predicted for more DBs to leave Nebraska. There have been a few, but then you've also seen a couple of players, Larry Tarver and Braylon Prude, come back in from the portal after leaving Nebraska. So they just continue to have big numbers in the secondary, and that's fine. It fits within the construct of the roster. Nebraska's not pushing the limit at this point. You can go over the numbers. The Huskers return 106 players from last season. They have lost 17 to the portal. That gets you down to 89, plus 10 signees is 99, and then 14 new players. So you're at 113. There's room for approximately 120 on this roster. It was 125 last year, and it's just a matter of how many of those non-counters, basically the walk-ons, have left, and it's a small number. So they have room. They can, even if there's not players who leave this week, there is room, whether it's in February with Berryman, the defensive lineman that we mentioned, or more coming in from the portal. There is room to take these guys. So those DBs, you take them and you put them in the mix, and then they all compete back there for Addison Williams, who's another coach for Matt Rhule that brings back continuity at a position where it's greatly needed. So the march toward an off-season championship is well underway.
Yeah, they're definitely off to at least a decent start, right? And so maybe they could finish this week with a couple fireworks or something like that. You know, we get reel in a big fish or something like that. I still think that's what people are probably waiting for. They're like, oh, come on, where's the guy that I've
running back, man?
Yeah,
that's it. That's what it's got to be. It's got to be a running back.
Yeah, and defensive tackle, right? So,
and give him a tight end while you're at it. Like they have players back from the tight end spot, but they could certainly use more there. It's not a position where you look at it and you say, yep, that's good to go. So there's still some holes. Yeah.
All right. That'll do it for us today. Appreciate you guys joining us, making us your first listen like you do every single day. If you're watching with us on YouTube, we're going to send you over to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. And on audio, you can find your second listen with Locked On College Football. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.